Hi everybody, Steve here, the British Railroader, and today we're going to be fitting a sound decoder, one of these, with a speaker, into my new Atlas GP40-2. So, come with me over to the workbench and let's get started. So here we go on the workbench, and I tried to gather together all of the bits that I need. Not all of them are in shot, but you know, we'll go through them in a moment. So as you all know, I got this Atlas GP40-2 for Christmas, and it's DCC ready, and I had put a plain decoder in because I didn't have a sound one to add to it. And the plan was that obviously I was going to add sound as soon as I could get a decoder in, and I have one. So I looked inside this and I looked at what decoder I would need, and what I've got is a TSUNAMI 2 TSU2200. So this is a 2 amp decoder, so it'll go in anything HO. It can be fitted either hardwired, or if you can just see here, these wires are actually attached to a harness. So if you cut away a little piece of the plastic wrap there, it'll expose the harness, and you can use one of these, which is a harness with a 8-pin plug on the end. This works. I know that this works because when I fitted the plain decoder, that's what I put in there. So that's the plan. We're also going to use one of these, a little sugar cube speaker, which has some enclosures. These are ESU ones. They're 8 ohm speakers, so they work fine with the TSUNAMIs. I also have, and if we just pan round, I have my soldering iron over here, ready and waiting to go, along with all of its accessories. And I have my DCC system set up and ready, and my test track. So here we go, let's get into this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the body off of the locomotive. So we're just going to move these bits aside for the moment. Now, most US locomotives, and this is what I love about US locomotives, is that they are simple to do. So with this one, as you can see, there is a screw here. I think if I get that a bit closer, holding the coupler box in place. There's the same at the other end, but I've already removed the other end. And literally all you have to do is unscrew that, take the screw out, which is sometimes easier said than done, but let's get a pair of tweezers and then push the coupler and its box out. Put them to one side so that they are safe. Put that with the other one. Where's the screw? There it is. Thought I'd lost it for a minute. That would have been tragic. Okay, and then literally, just carefully pull the body shell off. So put that to one side. We do not need the body shell at the moment. And what we have here is an 8-pin DCC connector. And we also have, this is a slightly older Atlas model, so it actually has, as part of the weight, a place for 2 round speakers at either side of the drive shaft. Now, I'm not going to be using a round speaker. I have got some, but I'm saving this for another project, and that would, you take this part of the weight out, that would fit in there. I don't want to use them. As I said, I'm using a sugar cube speaker. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I want to use the space that's in here, so I'm going to, let's just get a slightly smaller screwdriver. I'm going to unscrew this, put that to one side, and drop out this part of the weight. Do the same on the other side. Drop out that. And what we're going to do is the speaker itself, I'm going to mount in here. which will be plenty of room, and it's right by where the decoder is. So that's the first part. Let's move these bits to one side because we no longer need those, and tidy away them. So let's prep the decoder. So let's just take this out of its packaging. And one of the great things about the TSUNAMI decoders is, as you can see here, they have all of the instructions that you need for wiring. As I said, I'm not going to be hardwiring this one. I am going to be using a harness. Just put that to one side for a moment and take this out. So as you can see, it's got wires either end. Now this end is the main wires with the attached to the harness. This end is things like the speaker wires plus a couple of other function wires. So we're going to start on this end, and what we need to do is we need to get in here to remove this harness. So what you do is you just very carefully cut around this with your craft knife. And what you're doing is just taking away a little bit of this plastic on the outside, like so. Just going to grab my tweezers and just use that just to remove this. So what I want to do is just get in to here. That's it. There. That then unplugs like so, and this one plugs in like that. So save that. Always handy to have things like that saved. As with all plugs, your orange is your number one. So we go here. We are just going to zoom in a little bit, or not, because it won't let me, but we will take off the blanking plug, and luckily it's got the number one marked there. So we put in the decoder, and that is your decoder fitted. That is simple as, and that will sit just nicely there once you've bundled those wires up a little bit. And you do need to bundle the wires up, this is the thing. In fact, this spare wire here is going to help with that for the time being. We will use some tape, and I'll show you what tape we're going to use in a moment. We'll bundle that up there, that'll sit behind there, that'll sit on there, and that will fit all nicely inside. So next we need to wire in the speakers. So we're going to undo these, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shorten some of these wires, because for a start we don't need two of them. So it's the two purple wires we need for the speakers. These two for this installation are surplus to requirements, so I am going to snip them off. Not completely off, because you never know, I might want to add something in the future. And we're going to use a little bit of this, and this is Kapton tape. And Kapton tape is specially designed for electronics because it doesn't trap heat. And I know some people would be using black electrical tape for this, and all I can say is don't. I'm going to tape them onto there for the time being, and that'll keep them out of the way. I'll put a little bit more tape over that in a minute. So we've got these two wires here. Again, I'm going to cut these ever so slightly shorter. And we're going to get our speaker. Now, before we wire everything together, we just need to prepare the speaker. And with these speakers, they come with enclosures that you can build up. So these are ESU speakers, as I said. With these, the bigger the enclosure you've got, the more sound you get, because you get a bigger sound enclosure. And these are great because you can just build them up, and they don't clip together, but they look like they should clip together. And you can stack them and build as big a enclosure as you want. And I'm going to put that one in there. But what you want to do is you want to kind of seal around these. So into my glue pot I go. I'm going to get some of this liquid poly cement. This one's a Tamiya one. Others are available. And then where the joins are, we're just going to go all the way around and glue. Careful not to touch the sides that you've glued, because they have a habit of being sticky and you don't stick your fingers to it, like so. And then the last one, just the front. And this is really easy to do, and you just give that literally a few seconds and that will bond. It's gonna, never know if the blowing on it makes any difference or not, but it does make me feel a little bit better. So we're going to move the glue out of the way because we don't need that. And then we are going to start the soldering. So before I solder, what I've decided to do is put the speaker in the position I want it. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm going to wire it so that one wire goes one side and one wire goes the other. And it just makes life a little bit easier. So to position it, I've got some double-sided foam tape. I'm going to cut a piece off about the size of the footprint of the speaker. And I'm going to stick that to the back, just here. Peel that off. Thread this, oops, so you can see at least. I'm going to thread that through, and that just sticks on there so that my speaker is nicely mounted. And then what we've got is we've got two wires here, two wires here, and they just need to be joined. Now, it doesn't matter for this conversion which wire you put with which, just simply because it doesn't matter which is the positive and negative. What you would need to do if you're fitting more than one speaker, if you want to have speakers in series, then you would need to make sure that they're all wired, all of the positives are wired to one and all the negatives are wired to another. But as I said, on this one it doesn't really matter. And also what we're going to do, as I tidy up as I go along, which I should do, is we're going to also use a little bit of this, which is heat shrink tubing. Cut that in half. I am going to slip one on here and one on here, and that is just ready for when I make the soldering join. And we need to strip our wires. I've got my wire strippers, which are the most old-fashioned wire strippers I think you're ever going to see, but they work. Do exactly what they say on the tin, as the advert used to say. They strip wire. How many of you over the years have used your teeth to strip wires? Not a very good thing to do. So, I am a great believer in simple joints for my wiring and soldering. I am not the best solderer in the world, but I get there. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to turn the soldering iron on and we'll just join those up. Okay, so I've got my flux out, so I'm just going to put a little bit of flux on each of these joins. Just a little bit. This is flux paste, works better for this. It's one of those non-clean things. So I'm going to take my soldering iron, throw everything on the floor, and my solder, and then we're just going to heat this up, get some solder on there, and the same with this one. And that, my friends, is the soldering joint done. So before we put the heat shrink tubing on, we're just going to test it and make sure that she works. So here we go, she's on the test track. I'm just going to turn on, and there we have power. I think you can just see on the decoder here there's a little light which shows that the decoder is working. Now this isn't the correct prime mover. I know this will all need to be programmed, and I'll do that shortly, and once that's done I will show you. And here we go, lights are on, bells are ringing. And she's moving quite happily. Lights are working nicely. So there we go. She works. So now that we've done that, let's tidy her up and we'll get the lid back on and see how she looks and sounds once everything's been put back together. Okay, so before we do anything else, we're going to tidy this up a little bit. So first thing is we're going to put the heat shrink tubing in place. This is very narrow, this heat shrink tubing, but it will fit. So there's the first bit. So we're just going to get my soldering on. And I just use the edge like this. That just produces enough heat normally just to shrink that into place. Like so. And then we'll do the same on this end. Might just push it down this way, like so. And we'll just shrink that in so that everything is nice and tightly in place, like that. The soldering iron can go away and can be switched off. Okay, so the next thing is we've got all these wires everywhere, they need to be tidied up. There is no right or wrong way to do this. I did mention about Kapton tape, so we've got our Kapton tape here, and we're going to use this to hold things in place. So let's just get a piece like this. You don't need it too long because you don't want it kind of messing things. But the first thing is I'm going to put a piece over here, and that will hold the decoder, should hold the decoder in place, all being well. There we go. And then just here with these wires, that might be fine actually, just being tucked in. And again with these wires, I might just tuck them into the enclosure, so they shouldn't get in the way of that. But again, maybe a bit of tape all the way over might just help. In fact, a lot of tape is going to help in this situation. We're going to put one there and one on that side. That will hold that. Perhaps a little bit longer bit over the actual decoder, so that it reaches down and actually takes onto something like the side of the motor. There we go. All on. So I am going to reassemble everything and just make sure that all fits. Okay, just a little note of caution when you're refitting your coupler boxes. So I don't know if you can see here, but there is a coupler cut bar, and if you're not careful with the coupler boxes, it'll get in the way. So you need to make sure that your coupling goes in underneath that and not pop out just like I've done. So what I tend to do is with my thumb just put some tension on the coupler box, and there we go, slide it in. So now you can see the coupler cut bar goes over the end of the box. Just a tip, even fiddlier, if you can see on the front, because obviously I had the snowplow in the way, but I thought it was easier just to demonstrate on the back. But that fits in quite nicely, and as you can see here, the screw will just go in there and that's on. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the test track and I'm going to adjust the CVs so that we've got the right sounds coming out. So here's the loco completely reassembled. She's back on the track and I've reprogrammed her. So the first thing I did was reprogram her number, so she's now 3013, and then I adjusted the prime mover. The air horn at the moment is set as a Nathan K3LA, which is kind of a pretty standard thing. I'll have a do a bit more research just to see if it was a different type. But the prime mover, so on these decoders, this is, as I said, this is a Soundtraxx decoder, one of their TSUNAMIs, and it's the EMD set of sounds, and the default is an EMD 567 prime mover. And this particular engine had an EMD 645 turbo. So let's go to the startup sequence. You can actually program it so the bell doesn't sound when it starts up. It's entirely up to you. I have some that do and some that don't. And you can now hear what a very different sound is coming out of that. This has got the turbocharger. It's, you know, this literally has all the bells and whistles. And she works. And I'm just checking the lights. Ah, yes. And the lights work as well, which is always a good thing. You can hear a little bit of tinniness there from the, let's turn that off. You heard a little bit of tinniness there from the speaker, and you tend to find that's because of the wattage. So what I will probably do is look at the master volume, and I will turn that down just a little bit, and that should make things a little bit better. So there you go. That's a relatively simple DCC sound fitting. I think hopefully what it goes to show is that fitting DCC sound isn't as scary as it sometimes seems, and I hope that this has been useful to you. Please like anything that you've seen, and happy to answer any questions or queries. Just post them in the comments, and I will reply as soon as I see them normally. Which you know, is quite, as those that have posted comments know, I tend to get back to you quite quickly. But thank you for watching. I hope again that this has been helpful, and please subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you next time.